Tilehurst End Podcast by Reading fans for Reading fans.
Hello and welcome to the Tilehurst End weekend preview. Reading have won away from home for the first time since September. Now their task is to win back-to-back games for the first time since December 2017 as Wigan Athletic visit the Medeski Stadium this weekend. My name is Olly Allen, your host for today's show, and I'm pleased to say that I'm joined as ever by the Wokingham paper's Tom Crocker. How's it going, Tom?
Yeah, very good, thank you. That's been dragging on for so long. I'd be so happy to just get out of the way this weekend, hopefully.
Indeed. I think, was it Barnsley and Sunderland, those two games, which, obviously, neither of those teams now are in the Championship, so it tells you what a long time ago that was. But obviously, that huge result at Ipswich last weekend, Mo Barrow's late winner, securing a 2-1 victory. But yes, it was a huge result, Tom, but obviously the pressure is far from off Reading. Obviously, Rotherham winning as well, beating Blackburn 3-2. So despite all the jubilation from our end, we are still only out the bottom three on goal difference. And whilst perhaps we might have hoped that win might have given us a bit of breathing room last week, this Wigan game now is just as big, if not bigger, than last weekend. Yeah,
it's been the last three. We always looked at these three games, and each week they've been ramping up every week, really. But yeah, the positive is they are still out the relegation zone, even if it is just goal difference. They obviously would have dropped in if they'd not got that later winner. So yeah, they're still in the position they want to be in. Wigan and Millwall have been dragged down as well now, so it's in a position now where if Reading win, they could possibly jump up 2 spots, or definitely above Wigan anyway if they win at the weekend. So so the win last week was another massive moment after failing to beat Rotherham at home. I think they had to get the points on the board, and yeah, they've given themselves a good opportunity now to win this weekend. And yeah, even if Rotherham stay with them, they'll still have the points on the board to be ahead of them and pull away hopefully from the bottom two a little bit. So it was a big win, and like I said, this weekend again, especially considering the games they've got to come afterwards, is another massive opportunity at home to get that win and stay outside the bottom three for another week.
Wigan's 2-1 defeat to Derby in midweek, meaning that we've now played an equal amount of games as them, so a win would take us above them on goal difference. But I think really this weekend it could be a real breakthrough weekend for Reading. I think, especially if you look at the other fixtures for teams around them. Rotherham go to Sheffield United, which is one of the hardest away days in the division, as Reading found out obviously a couple of weeks ago. And obviously with Rotherham's poor away record, I'd be hugely surprised, I think, if they got anything there. Bolton and Millwall then face each other. So at least one of those sides will be dropping points at the weekend. I think, put simply, Tom, Saturday's a huge, huge opportunity for Reading.
Yeah, I think it's, like I said, last week Ipswich had to win. I think they're pretty much gone now. And I think if Bolton lose to Millwall and Reading can win, that'll possibly get rid of them as well from the picture. I think they'll be 10 points adrift pretty much if they lost to Millwall. So it'd be hard to see them. Obviously, they made a good escape last year from a pretty bad situation, but you'd look at it and say it's one spot left, and the fewer spots there are to go down, and the more teams Reading seem to drag into it, I think it's the better situation for Reading. So yeah, like I say, it's another massive opportunity this weekend. It's hard to see Rotherham picking up the points, but say even if they do, you'd like to think the bottom two would be cut adrift a little bit. And yeah, given obviously it's Leeds on Tuesday and then more difficult games afterwards, it's at home against Wigan is one that they look at. And I think we were going through the fixtures today at the press conference, and all the teams, the games to come for the rest of the season, majority are in the top half teams. So it's a tough run in, and I think, we said it at the start of these 3 games, I think I said 7 points would be a pretty good return from them. They've got 4, and I think pick up another win now, jump above Wigan in the table, hopefully pull 3 points clear of Rotherham as well. Things would suddenly, I think there'd be a massive boost of confidence around the club to get those back-to-back wins. I think suddenly things would seem a lot brighter than it still looks at the moment. Saturday at home, I think they've got to go and win it. A draw would feel disappointing again, and I think that's pretty much the philosophy and mentality they've got as well at the club.
Gomez mentioned QPR in his press conference today. I saw something. Did he mention trying to catch QPR, which I think is quite ambitious? But
I think he did get a mention. I mean, he's been saying for 2 or 3 weeks now he doesn't think it's just going to be Reading, Rotherham, Millwall, Wigan. He thinks that teams from above can get dragged into it, and I suppose if Reading do win, they are within potentially shooting distance of QPR again. He said it's a pretty big weekend at the bottom of the table, so I presume those are the sort of the games he was alluding to, the Millwall Bolton one, and I'm not entirely sure who QPR are playing actually, but I think he did mention them. Yeah, so he's certainly not looking. He doesn't think those guys just above the. You've obviously got Brentford and Stoke up there as well, who Reading have got to play. So he thinks there's more teams in it than perhaps maybe looks like from the outside, and I suppose given the way Millwall and Wigan have suddenly fallen into it, you can see is thinking through that. But I think they've got to just try and overtake the couple of sides above them first before worrying too much about QPR or anything else above that.
QPR played Stoke the weekend.
Okay.
So they've been on a terrible run of form with QPR. I mean, they had obviously that horrific start to the season. I think they lost very heavily, something like 7-0 or something to West Brom, and then recovered very well. But they've dropped back down there in recent weeks, but still on 42 points, which is still 9 points ahead of Reading. So, as you say, not perhaps something to worry about at the moment. But I mean, without sounding too confident, there aren't too many other teams you'd want to be facing at home this weekend other than Wigan. Reading are the 6-4 favourites to win it, according to Odds Checker, #GambleAware. Wigan are 9-5, and the draw is 9-4. But these stats maybe I'll come back to bite me some. But I mean, no side has picked up less points than Athletics on the road this season. Both them and Ipswich have only picked up 6 points away from home all season. Wigan have only won once away all season, and that came all the way back in August.
Yeah, I'd say that when you told me that just before we started, I had a quick look at that, and you'd say level 6 points away with Ipswich and 7. Rotherham have got 7, and Reading failed to beat Ipswich or Rotherham at home. So that's another way of looking at it. Like we said a couple of weeks ago, they're struggling to beat these sides in and around them in the table, and I think you said they had the worst record out of all those sides against each other in the bottom 6. Obviously, they boosted that a little bit last weekend, but these games at home that you've looked at, we've looked at so many times, have not quite panned out perhaps as we'd hoped. But yeah, it's certainly you'd rather be playing them than obviously Tuesday night against Leeds. So you'd fancy the chances against Wigan much more. So they're another. It seems to be all the games we play at the moment is against the side on a long run of draws. Obviously, they lost on Tuesday. Before that, I think they'd drawn 4 or 5 in a row, just like Rotherham had, and Ipswich had drawn quite a lot in a row before they played last weekend. So yeah, they're grinding out the points, picking up a few draws here and there. But like most of these teams in the bottom 6, struggling to get over the line and get the win. So that just like Rotherham did, they'll probably come here to Reading and expect they can maybe end their poor run themselves. But yeah, for Reading as a home game, considering, like I say, the ones they've got left to come, you have to look at it and think this is one of the best chances they're going to have to get 3 more points on the board.
I can't say that I've seen too much of Wigan this season. I was trying to find out a bit more about their style of play. I mean, to be honest, it doesn't look as though there's sort of a clear one you can point to. I mean, I know they sort of really excelled in League One last season with high intensity attacking football and did try to try and carry that over to the Championship this season. I think for a while it did seem to get them results. I think they were 3rd in the Championship in the middle of September. Obviously, it's faded since then. They sort of rank around mid-table in the Championship for things like pass success rate, average possession, time spent in the opposition third, all sort of around 14th, 15th. They rank for that. So no sort of clear style you can point to, Tom. But what sort of game are you expecting from Wigan? Obviously, will this be a bit of a scrappy one? Obviously, you mentioned they've drawn 4 of their last 5 games, so they certainly have that fight in them, perhaps. Yeah,
fairly similar to some of the other recent games we've seen. I'd imagine it would be extremely tight. All the teams down there, not entirely too much between them, and yeah, something Gomez was saying today actually, that a lot of teams down the bottom seem to be changing systems quite regularly at the moment. Whether he's not sure whether that's down to the pressure of the situation or he said he's been surprised a few times when they've come up against some teams. I think Wigan have in the last few games played maybe 3 at the back, but they've certainly not done that the whole season, like you say. And I thought they'd be okay actually at the start of the season when they came up. They'd made a good start and they stormed League One really last season, did really well down there, and it looked like they bounced back pretty well. But yeah, they've been dragged back in, and I think just if they can stay up in their first season back, it'll probably be a fairly successful season. And yeah, they're obviously still outside the bottom 3 for now, and they've got a few decent players in there. But I imagine they'll try and keep the game tight as they have done with all those draws and look to net the goals in terms of the goal difference or goals scored. It's pretty similar to what Reading's is throughout the season, really. So maybe that's a bit of a guide to how they've been getting on. But yeah, I would be surprised if there's any more than 1 goal in it, really, either way. I think it's likely to be a pretty tight game, as most of the Reading home games seem to be at the moment.
Well, I said I haven't seen much of Wigan this season, so this next section should be able to help with that as we find out a little bit more about Paul Cook's side in the view from the town end.
The view from the town end. What do the opposition think?
Right then, view from the town end time now, and with Reading hosting Wigan at the weekend, I'm joined today by Latics fans Simon Gregory and Adam Pendlebury from the Progress with Unity podcast. How's it going, guys?
Yeah, good. Thanks, yourself.
Yeah, not too bad. I'm a little bit nervous about the weekend, but obviously, because what makes this game so huge is obviously the Wigan have slipped into the relegation battle in the last couple of months. I think that 0-0 draw between the two sides in November sort of came as Wigan were beginning to struggle for form, perhaps. And obviously, I think you've only won 3 times since then. Why do you think you've sort of been dragged into this battle after what appeared to be sort of quite a promising start to life back in the Championship?
After such a promising start to the season, great victory away at Stoke. It's just, I don't know what's clicking away, not working away from home, because at home we've been okay. We've got results where you wouldn't think we were going to get results, and we've lost where maybe we shouldn't have done.
Yeah.
But then away from home, it's something else. I mean, take for example, Tuesday night we played Derby, 2 not great teams. We take the lead, and then you look back at it. The more I've looked back at it now from Tuesday, 2 soft goals conceded. I don't know what you think, Adam.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first one it was more in terms of the build-up. We didn't get close enough and cut the cross out. I mean, you could put it down as a great finish or a little bit of luck. The second goal, pretty poor. The cross came in too easily. Poor marking at the far post. Soft goals, really, and unfortunately, a team that doesn't score many goals away from home can't really afford to concede soft goals, because I think we tend to, in general, defend okay. I mean, there's been a few games this season. Sheffield Wednesday comes to mind away from home. It was a absolutely nothing game. Should have been a 0-0 really. And then we just gave Stephen Fletcher too much space, ran straight through the middle of our defence, shot 1-0, and we didn't trouble Sheffield Wednesday at all. I believe in that game we didn't even get into the penalty area in the second half. So we're not feeling overly positive about our away form.
No, it's goals that's definitely letting us down away from home. Because we're getting final thirds in. Only the middle of the park. I think we seem to be doing all right. Attacking third, we seem to just not be letting ourselves down, not taking our chances. And defensively, it's starting to get a bit better now. We brought in Danny Fox from Nottingham Forest, and he seems to have shored things up a bit. But we've been weak in defence, and a bit of a reshuffle, bringing in Jamie Jones, who's been fantastic since he returned to the starting lineup, has started to shore things up a bit for us.
Danny Fox, I think, was sent off for Forest at the Malaysia early in the season, so that might be an interesting one at the weekend. But how do you rate your survival chances overall? Obviously, you mentioned that game on Derby on Tuesday, which does mean you've now played the same amount of games as everyone else down there, and now only 3 points above the relegation zone. But I think you have drawn four in a row before that defeat.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still relatively positive.
Okay.
It's worse teams than us.
Yeah, not implying that might be yourselves. But partly that, but also I was saying last night on the podcast that I think in a way, looking at that game the other day, you'd look at it and say, well, it doesn't look good. We're not good in our own penalty area. We're not good in the opposition penalty area. But then again, I think we actually benefit from our inconsistency, because we're so bad away, but then just from nowhere at home, we can go and beat Aston Villa 3-0.
Yeah.
Get a win against QPR side who wasn't playing too badly at the time, albeit they went on a bad run after that. We picked up a point against Middlesbrough at home. Earlier on in the season, we've beaten Bristol City and West Brom at home. So I wouldn't even look at games like Norwich at home and say that we couldn't pick up points. So if we can still pick up that level of points average at home, and you'd like to think the law of averages somewhere in those last 5 or 6 away games, we will get a win somewhere, and I think that would be enough to keep us up this season. I think we'll just about be okay, maybe by a cushion of about 3 points, pretty much where we are now.
But that's
I don't know what you think, Si.
Well, if we talked about this last night. I can't remember if it was on air or not. But if we look at last season's survival points tally, and you use that as your benchmark, that's going to be where you're aiming for. 2 teams have gone for me. I think Ipswich and Bolton have both gone.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
And then it's us, yourselves, Rotherham, and Millwall. I know who I'd prefer to go down, but I don't want to get attacked when Millwall come up here. Well, I've said it now, haven't I? There we are.
I thought you were going to say us for a second, so I'm pleased it was Millwall.
No, I've got family links down that way, so
Okay.
I've got to keep them sweet. But I tell you what, League One, it is good fun. If you're one of the bigger teams in that league, it's not too bad. It's not the league you want to be in, but it's not too bad.
I don't know if we want to be in it the other third time in sort of 5 years. I mean,
no,
I think novelty soon wears off, doesn't
it?
Yeah, I don't think it'll be us.
I mean, I was going to mention your time in League One last season because I think you played quite attacking football and did very, very well in that division. Has that sort of carried over to this season? What sort of style of play is Paul Cook trying to implement in this relegation battle?
Go on, Adam.
Well, I don't think you'll see that on Saturday.
Okay.
To be fair, what I would say is that that style of football was very much carried into the first 5 or 6 games of the season.
Yeah.
Even though we lost at Aston Villa, the Villa correspondent said we were probably the best side they've played all season. We had some great home wins in that time. I think what happened was we lost within the space of about 3 or 4 weeks. We lost Nick Powell, Michael Jacobs, Gavin Massey, Will Grigg, who were all absolutely key to the way that we kind of have been playing. And unfortunately, we don't have the squad depth. So it's been inevitable that our attacking play hasn't quite been the same. We've had to maybe play, a bit more conservative in our midfield in particular. We haven't really played sort of attacking wingers. And it's led for what many perceive to be quite defensive football. But I don't think it's necessarily the mindset of the manager. I think it's been more the players.
And caution.
We just haven't had the personnel. And since those players have returned, they haven't really hit the ground running as you would expect after 4 or 5 months.
It's definitely not going to be like it was at Oxford last season for us. So against one of your rivals, we're not going to be banging that amount of goals in. Moving
on. To the weekend then, what did you make of Reading during that 0-0 draw back in November? Have you seen much of us since then?
I didn't think you were a bad outfit, a bad side. We were made aware of players to look out for. It's Maite up front, and you've done a bit of good business. So you brought Oliveira in from Norwich, but
yes,
I think like ourselves, because you're not in that relegation zone, you were flirting. I wouldn't class you as one of the main contenders for that last spot. So that's where I'm coming from. I've not really taken much notice until now. Where we, like you say, we've caught up on our games because we've had that cushion. I've kind of thought I don't need to look and worry. Now that cushion's gone, you look at it and go, how are they looking? They've brought in someone like Oliveira who does score goals. You're not.
It is actually ruled out this weekend, actually, which is probably a good thing for you guys. He's been ruled out.
We know Danny Fox is out for us. It looks like as well, doesn't it? So
yeah. So I mean, I'll be honest. I've not seen much of Reading.
Okay.
That's probably due to the fact that you're probably the same with us, really, because it's sort of like the Leeds derby monopoly on Sky. It's
absolutely,
much, we don't get to. I mean, the time I did see you. Which I watched all your game I think it was the first game of the season
against
Derby. I
actually
thought you were very unlucky against what I believe to be a poor Derby side. It's
been downhill from there. I can assure you.
Yeah. Well, I guess the table at this stage, I think for both of us, doesn't lie, does it? Really, I suspect.
No. But it's one of those games you want to be at this weekend because you've got to, from both sides of the fence, you've got to get behind these teams, haven't you? And hopefully, get an away win for us, but obviously you guys have got other views to what we have.
Yeah. In terms of potential key players for Wigan at the weekend, who should Reading fans keep an eye out for?
Key players.
There's one in particular.
Reece James, you might have heard about him. The rounds. Yeah, he's phenomenal play. I'm going to pick Steele Adams Thunder. He'll play for England and be a future England captain.
Okay.
Which Adam called very early on in the season. I'll give him that one. And from there on in, Cedric Kipre, centre back, we got in this season. He's reliable, hard working. Gavin Massey, He showed on Tuesday night. Yeah, Tuesday night, and he was very good to start the season, wasn't he, Adam? He was, he was one of our probably standout players. He was up there with Reece James, and a massive contributing factor to our good start to the season. And then, you've got Nick Powell, if he's at the races and given a good stint, he's phenomenal. He can be phenomenal.
Finally then, to both of you, how do you see the game panning out? Can I get a score prediction from the two of you?
I'll let you go first, Si, because on our predictions, you always go second and copy me.
we do what we call our ticks predicts. I'm going to go with, I'm trying to remember what I said last night, so it's bad that I can't remember about 24 hours.
I can remember.
I'm going to go 2-0 Wigan.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's exactly what I thought. You might forget what you'd said last night, because that was the way I was going to go with it. 2-0. I mean, I think it'll be a tight game.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if there's one goal either way in it, or even a 0-0 again.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be one where you would take a neutral fan to. I think it's going to be quite tight, and we'll. I think we're all fingers crossed, really, we get the result for our respective teams.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, I can see it being a very, very tight game. I've gone for a 1-0 win to Reading. But what are your fixtures like coming up after this? I think we've got a fairly tough run in compared to a lot of the other teams.
Well, we've got two of the top three.
Yeah,
Leeds away, Norwich at home.
Okay.
And then we've got Bolton at home. We've got Brentford at home. We've got Bristol City away, we've got Preston at home, and we've got Birmingham away. So,
come see, Millwall
at home last day of the season.
Wow. I mean, yeah, that could be a huge one. I think we've got Birmingham on the last day, but I think certainly this relegation battle could go right down to the wire. But my thanks then to both of you for joining me on the View from the Tap end today. Best of luck at the weekend and in this relegation battle throughout the rest of the season.
Thanks very much. Same to you after Saturday.
All right. Cheers, mate.
Cheers.
Get social with the boys.
Find them on Twitter
at the Tilehurst End
and facebook.com/the Tilehurst End.
Welcome back to the Tilehurst End weekend preview, looking ahead to Reading versus Wigan this weekend. Injury-wise, Tom, I believe it's bad news about certain Portuguese striker.
Yes, Nelson Oliveira obviously came off after scoring Ipswich last week, and it's a significant hamstring injury as the line had been given on that one. There's no sort of official timescale for it, but it sounds like it's probably definitely out for this weekend and unlikely to be back before the international break. I think that's 2-3 weeks away, and it sounds like that's going to be certainly for the Saturday's game and the Leeds game. It would be no Oliveira, which it's a massive blow. He scored 3 goals already and played well in the majority of his games that he's played. So that's a big problem. And then do you want to go through? There's a few other knocks as well. See, Martinez he played last week and sort of man of the match performance, I think, up at Ipswich, but he played injured. I think he got injured in the warm up, a calf problem he's got, but it's being monitored and he's meant to be in full training again on Friday. And if he gets through that, Gomez said he'll start. So considering he played sort of injured last week, you'd imagine, unless it's particularly bad, you'd imagine he'll be back out there again.
And made some very good saves whilst injured as well last week.
Well, exactly, yeah. So I think got man of the match, didn't he? It looked like. So he'll be very reluctant to drop out, I think. And obviously the goalkeeping situation, Yukola's been out as well. I think he's pretty close to getting back in now, so he could be possibly available if needed. And then you've also got Walker as well, so there are options there. But hopefully Martinez will be okay to play, and the rest of them, it's sort of all still out. I mean, Renamota's still a few weeks away, still only in the gym, not back out on the grass yet. So his side is Athalai is a bit of a strange one because Gomez sort of ruled him out for the season, but it sounds like he's sort of back, sort of done the gym stuff. He's back outside now, not in full training, but him, Baldock and Bodvarsson are all on the same sort of schedule. So they could be back at some point, but not for this. Not for this weekend. It seems unlikely. Possibly just before it for maybe the next weekend. But I don't think any of them will be back for the next couple of games. And the other one is Obito. It sounds like he's back in the gym now, which is good. Sounds like he's progressing pretty well. But obviously he's a long-term one. But good news for him. And Oliveira is obviously the big one that is going to be a big gap to fill this weekend.
With all of that in mind, then what would your starting 11 be at the weekend?
Yeah, so obviously if Martens is fit, he keeps his place in goal, and then the back four as is Yadom, Miazga, Moore, Blackett. Midfield three of Baker sitting deeper as he was before, Ajaria, and then Swift playing further forward. And on the wings, I would bring Barrow in to start. Obviously, he scored last week, and McCleary got another assist, so keep him in on the left. And then Yaku Mete is the main man up front. I think this weekend it's with no Oliveira, the options are somewhat limited up front.
Yeah, obviously for a second week in a row, we've gone for the same 11. We were saying off air that there's not really else much you can do with the side. I think that's just the one change from last week with Barrow coming in to replace Oliveira. And Mate, as you say, moving up front. I mean, is that really the only option Reading have sort of in trying to fill that Oliveira shaped hole? I mean, there's no denying it. He will be a huge miss to the team, and hopefully won't miss too many games. But with Bodvarsson also not available, hopefully Mate will be able to step up. I mean, he's certainly struggled a little bit so far under Gomez. I think perhaps that's because he's played more out wide, and that's not really suited him. But I mean, I expect we might also see Danny Loader at some point as well.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a decent opportunity for Loader. Obviously, he started a few games under Gomez, so he could possibly come in to start. But I think the way Mete played and set up that goal at the end last week, it would be surprised if he wasn't starting up front this weekend, you'd imagine. But yeah, in terms of the options, it's pretty slim on the ground up front. And Mete hasn't scored since November. I think he's still maybe the joint top scorer there with Bodvarsson for the season, which says a lot.
Very telling,
well, yeah, exactly. It's not ideal, but so we spoke with Mate at the press conference today, actually, and he said he didn't want to blame it entirely on what happened in January, but he says the speculation probably didn't really help what was going on with him in terms of his form over that month. Obviously, it went right down to deadline day, and he's ended up staying, and now he's going to be sort of the main man up front, it looks like. So, a bit of a turnaround for him, but yeah, he's still, I think, fairly confident that he can go out and do a job. Obviously, missed a few chances in that Rotherham last home game, which eventually led to them not winning that game. So he's got a bit of a point to prove up there. But yeah, I think he's capable. He showed earlier this season if he can hit a bit of a purple patch during these weeks Oliveira's out, he's capable of getting the goals they need. It's just obviously not an ideal situation. Hopefully Danny Loader can maybe come in and have a good impact as well. But yeah, in terms of I think defensively there's plenty of options there, but in terms of going forwards, Harriet will probably be on the bench and could make an impact. I can't really see him starting. And then obviously Richards has played a few games on the wing, but again, I think the way McCleary's playing, you'd imagine he'll be starting out on the left again. And then Barrow came on and scored, hasn't started too much under Gomez, often been a sub, but I think given the other options, I think he's probably due another start now as well. Yeah,
I mean, it is sort of times like these that you really do need your wingers and midfielders to step up, and we've spoken about that a lot, but certainly with Oliveira out, you do potentially worry where the goals might come from. In fairness, I think there does seem to be a slight improvement in recent weeks. I think obviously Barrow got the goal last week, Ajaria scored against Rotherham, and Swift scored against Blackburn. Gareth McCleary, he hasn't scored yet, but he's got 2 assists in his last 2 games. I mean, do you get the sense that they are starting to step up a little bit?
I think McCleary's certainly been much improved. I think that Rotherham game is the best I've seen him play for a long time. By all accounts, he was as good at, if not better, at Ipswich. So, yeah, it's really good to see from him. Obviously, not scored for still getting on for 2 years now, I think it might be. So it's hopefully one from him. But tried to push Gomez a little bit on that today. The lack of goals still. Obviously, Barrett got one last week. Didn't want to go too much into it. Just said that he's trying to encourage them to shoot a bit more, really, which is obviously sounds a simple thing to do, but hopefully, like I say, Mate can maybe click into gear, and he's capable of scoring goals at this level, as he's shown this season. So yeah, there's goals in and around that team. It's one, we have to hope maybe one will be enough, and they can scrap it out somehow and muddle through until Oliveira's back again, because he is such a massive part of how the team's been improving in recent weeks, I think.
Tuesday the 4th of April 2017 was Gareth McCleary's last goal, which I think is nearly about 50 games since his last score, which obviously is a pretty poor record for him. Obviously he's had his injuries during that time, but even so I think he probably needs a goal to try and if one comes, maybe more will follow. But finally, a brief point then, just something that I'd noticed in the last few weeks. Obviously we don't have too many midfield options with Maluko now gone and Rinamoto and Estelahi out injured, and we are having to include 3 defenders on the bench. Generally, it's been Paul McShane, Chris Gunter, and John O'Shea. But could potentially one of those be replaced by an academy player, Tom, who can play further forward? I mean, maybe not every week, but certainly against Leeds in midweek, for example, you might want to go a bit more defensive and keep those 3 on the bench. But perhaps against Wigan, where you might need more goals to kill them off, might it be worth having someone like Josh Barrett or Tyler Frost potentially on the bench to just for a bit of a left field option?
Yeah, I think the general thinking for the last couple of weeks has been they've been expecting a sort of a direct bombardment, and that's been the reason for O'Shea, as we saw he came on against Rotherham. I think that's why he's been basically just been on the bench to come on and head the ball away if needed in the last few minutes. I think that's been the general thinking with him. So this weekend, I think I'd be surprised if those three are all on the bench again. I think, say, Richards is fit, and I'd imagine he'd be back in the squad. And you've still got Liam Kelly as well. He hasn't been. Yeah. I don't think he's been on the bench, has he? So he's a midfield option to have in there. But yeah, Jose's mentioned the academy players. He's got 3 or 4 training with the first team. You say Barrett, Ryan East, and a couple of others. So I think they are certainly in the thoughts, and the more injuries that keep cropping up, the better chance they've got to come in. But I think I would be surprised if those 3 defenders are all on the bench again. I think there's a couple more people that you could add in, unless he envisages another sort of direct style from Wigan, which, like he admitted himself, he's not entirely sure what they're going to bring on Saturday, because they've changed things up a little bit in the last few weeks.
Liam Kelly included in the squad against Sheffield United, but not played since. I think he obviously came off injured, didn't he?
Yeah.
Against Sheffield United, but not been in either of the 2 games since then. Prediction time then. I mean, it did look as though you were finally going to get one right last weekend, Tom, with the score 1-1 with a couple of minutes to go. But I'm sure the fact that the scoreline then went in Reading's favour more than made up for it. But what are you going to go for this week?
Yeah, I can see another draw, but I'm going to go positive and go for a 2-1 Reading win. But it wouldn't surprise me if it ended like it did against Rotherham. But yeah, I think I'm going to stick my neck out and go for a 2-1 win and finally get that back-to-back wins that they've been speaking about for so long. And I know Gomez is well aware of it as well. So yeah, hopefully this is the weekend to finally break that. I don't think they're going to get a better chance really this season to do it.
No, I'm going to say 1-0 to Reading. I'm hoping we can just nick it. And obviously, Oliveira will be a big miss, but we might have been able to get more than that had he been in the side. But hopefully, it's my first game since the United Cup game due to being at uni. So hopefully I can come back to a win. But in terms of the podcast, Mark will be back early next week to look back on the Wigan game and also look ahead to that one against Leeds on Tuesday night as well. Tom and I will then be back this time next week to preview Reading's trip to Stoke City. That's the last game before March's international break. You can also check out the website, thetilehurstend.com, where you'll find all of our content for the Wigan game. And there's also a 2-part interview with former Reading striker Rowan LeBird up there now as well. On a similar note, Tom, what can we look forward to on the working paper in the next week or so?
You're just going to say you've also got Jan Kermgren, who we could do with this weekend if he's in the area. We could get him over for replace Nelson, get him up front. But
that Jan Kermgren interview announced this morning on the Tilehurst End Twitter. It should be going up, I think, the international break. There's a weekend preview exclusive for you. A couple of weeks break, but during international break we should have that interview with the man himself, Jan Kermgren, going up.
There we go. So from me, I'll say we spoke with Jose Gomez and Yaku Mate today. So Yaku spoke pretty well about how things were for him during January and how it maybe affected his form a little bit. So we'll have that going up at some point. But obviously there's the 2 home games which will take the main focus Saturday, and then again on Tuesday we'll be at both of those. So that'll be up on Twitter at Tom J Crocker and over on WokinghamPaper.com for all that.
Fantastic stuff. I mean, that point on Matey actually was something I think we discussed on this show, actually, whether that speculation in January would distract him potentially. So it'd be good to go over and read Yaku Mate's thoughts. All that's left for me to say then, Tom, is thank you very much for joining me on the Tilehurst End Weekend Preview this week.
No problem. Thank you, Ollie. Cheers.
And as always, a big thank you to you at home for listening. Saturday sees the 3rd successive relegation 6-pointer for Reading. And after drawing against Rotherham and beating Ipswich, can we make it 2 out of 3 against Wigan? That, in the words of Meatloaf, ain't bad. Come on, you Oz.
The Tilehurst End Podcast.
By Reading fans, for Reading fans.